Hello and welcome back to the Faith Building Podcast, episode 35, with your lovely and amazing hosts, Vladi, Kuna.
And Gräter.
And as you probably realized, and probably you watch us or listen to us a little later than you did not realize, on Monday there was no episode, like we did for 34 weeks straight in a row. Monday, 6:30 London time, the podcast was there, either on YouTube or on your favorite podcast station, Apple Store or wherever, Spotify. And we want to use exactly this because Vladi and I talked about it. I was on a cruise for a whole month. She's out with the kids and the family. And we did our very best to produce, or we pre-produced a couple episodes, and then we kind of ran out of one because our travel schedules kind of collided in regards to our episodes. And we thought, should we record it? But Vladi was traveling, then I was away with the kids. So it was a back and forth, and we want to speak about that today. If you give something like a podcast, a YouTube channel, something, you give something out for free, and we can also go into if you give something paid, because in my mind it's something different. But if you give value for free, and for some reason you cannot keep your scheduled date where you bring this out, should this be an issue? And just to kick it off, I want to tell you a story that I experienced on the cruise ship. There was a lady in one of my workshops, and she said, I always wanted to write a book, and I told some people about it, but right now I don't feel like writing the book anymore. And I just asked her a simple question. I said, who in your world will stop living, like who will die, if you don't write a book? Because I assume something. If you decide not to write the book, the life of 8.2 billion people will continue the way it was supposed to be, because they don't depend on your book. And if you write a book in 3 years, it's totally okay. The only issue you have with stopping what you promised others to do is your ego. Because you think, oh, what do they think about me? What do they say about me? They say, oh, she does not pull through. But at the end of the day, nobody else's life will depend on your book or what you say or do. And we want to speak about that today. We don't know if it's right or wrong. Maybe it will come out in our discussion. And Vladi, what do you think?
I love this topic because, as Norman is saying, it's really true. We sometimes put so much pressure on ourselves, which is not necessary. You know that you're doing your best. And I say that's where it starts. As long as you know you're doing the best, and there will be time where we need to let go. Because it's the world that is making us this way. We are also, we're both coaching with Norman. So we do tell people be consistent, be persistent, so it almost feels uncomfortable when you come to a point and you now want to give something up. What comes up? Notice what you're noticing. That's what I'm gonna say, because what comes up in your mind thinking, oh my God, what are people going to think about me? Like they're listening to this podcast that won't be available. Well, they will not think maybe anything, like people deserve holidays or maybe something happened. And this is where, even when Norman says paid, unpaid, the truth is, when people are taking a piss, that's the slang, I'm gonna use it. I know it's not maybe appropriate, and when they're truthful, because there will be things happening, but what is the attitude we take? Are we responding or reacting to it? And that's what I've learned on the holiday as well. You can see attitude of people, and Norman told you a story, and I'll tell you what happened to me. I was actually at the shop yesterday, and there was just one till open. And the whole line went, and there was this older gentleman, and oh my goodness, he was giving this poor young girl such a hard time about the coupon, and the coupon wasn't taking through. They've spent 15 minutes just discussing. Then she called another person and another person. So there were 3 people trying to help to solve the issue. And the whole line of people, and people were like, can I pay for him, even without the coupon at full price, so he can move on? But he was so hanging on to it because he was holding on to his whatever anger and situation. He probably was saving 50 cents. And we're not even talking a big money. But it's not about the money, it's about the attitude and things you can't let go, whatever it is in your life. Whatever you deliver, the lessons, the podcast, the coaching, your go-to work, attachments. We talk about, if you go a few episodes back, we talked about attachment, how attached you get to things. It really comes down to one single thing, and that is let go, because it is the ego. It is the what will others think about me? What will others say? It's the approval we're looking for. It's the shiny syndrome object. I don't know why that popped up in my mind, but really it is something that you need to just pay attention to. It's okay to take 2 weeks holiday. It's okay not to, sometimes we put so much pressure on yourself. But like Norman said, is someone dying? Is it not better to be happy and apologize to people, send them something, and just let go, and then carry on? Because people know when you're truthful and when you do your best.
I totally agree. And I'm just being reminded when you spoke about the grocery store experience and the line. There was a story, and I'm not quite sure where I heard it, in one of those countless seminars and coachings I had, where there was a person, I'm not sure if a man or woman, at the cash register and paying for stuff. And the person on the other side was quite rude. I think it was a lady that was working at the cash register. Then you can continue it before I
No,
mess
it's
it
actually
up.
Mary Morris's story.
Mary Morrissey, okay. Then
I
please
love
fill in.
this. Oh, you can say it if you
No, no,
want.
no.
It was actually a gentleman and the older lady, and the cashier she was really rude. She was snappy and she was throwing the stuff. Then once she had a little helper, and you know how they pack the bags, and after a while of this kind of going on backwards and forward, the guy comes to the car and he says to the boy who helps him to carry the bags, well, that was the rudest lady I've ever seen. And the boy says, oh, I know, but you know, she has one son, he got hit by a bike yesterday on the road. He's ended up in intensive care in a hospital. Now she has to work, otherwise the boss would tell her not to come back. So she couldn't take time off to be with her son who's in a hospital. And she doesn't have enough money to pay for his insurance, because obviously the money for a hospital and stuff. So she was so stressed. And he said, how many times we approach when we judge the person and we don't know the story behind. So if we could be kinder, because we never know anybody's story around. And when you think about, there are people who actually put this brave face on and they just handle things the way they do, because they don't show their emotions, they don't tell people, they don't ask for help. Doesn't mean they don't need it, but they're just pulling so many people. And when I look around, I always think about so many people put up a brave face, but we don't know people's story. So we shouldn't be judgmental and say that they're rude, because they might have a reason for it at that particular time. So it's funny.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you
I
for the
hijacked that
story.
back.
That's the story I wanted to tell. And this brings us back to our discussion for today. Like, is it right or wrong? And the cause of every right or wrong thinking are your own values. And the question is, what are your values? If I look at myself, I really say, if I promise something, if for free or paid, my weekly newsletter every Sunday at 9:30 German time, I want to have it on time. I had this discussion with Anke so often where she said, can you not just not stop writing it, but then you don't write it for this week, or you let it go, or you make a break, or you send it on Monday. And my own values say, no, 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 I promised, and that's why I want to deliver. And what Vladi already touched, and I want to continue with that, is the energy behind it. Like, if I then sit down at 9:15 because I did not take time the whole week, maybe I was on vacation or I'm still on vacation, and I write it in a kind of frustrated energy, like it totally destroys my day, and I have stress then with my spouse, and everything is just to push it through. The same with our podcast episode. Of course, there would have been a way at 2 a.m. in the morning, but the value we could have delivered, being totally down and out, would have been according to our energy. And therefore, I would say, if you sometimes cannot deliver what you promised and your values push you and say, but you did that and you want to keep it and you want to do it. Can you just be open and tell people? And this also is based on values. Like I would say, of course, if I promise something that we meet at 8, we meet at 8 because I take time, and I would be very appreciative if the other one takes the time as well. And going into that, if I meet with someone and the other person does not show up or comes 30 minutes late or whatever, it took my lifetime to wait for the person. So we totally understand that people probably take their lifetime. But like with a podcast, with a newsletter, I don't think that they will sit in the kitchen at 9:30 on Sunday or on Monday at 6:30 and they wait for hours and they do nothing else because their life depends on it. And I think if we squeeze that part in and say, do really people depend on this podcast, on this newsletter, on this whatever? Can we be more flexible if the energy is not there? And for sure, I would say yes, then let the person know if it's a meeting. Let the person know you have a delay. Always, always, always let them know. And with some things that are free, of course, you can let the person know if it fits because then they know. But at the end of the day, like with a podcast, nobody will die if you just have a couple days delay. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because when I was in a cottage with my parents, and it's in the mountains where 2 generations before my parents were living because of the Second World War, so they were pretty much hiding. And it's still there. Some of the cottages are, but there are parts like they like these valleys. So you have to walk quite like a couple of hours down the valley and up the valley. So we went mushroom pickers. My family's mushroom pickers. It was brilliant, but there's bears, so now we had to have the bear spray. So it was like this focus. You actually, where you focus, that's where your energy goes. And I realized that more than ever before, because like if you were focusing on the mushrooms, you would see them. If you're focusing, looking around and paying attention whether there might be a bear, you miss all the mushrooms in front of you. And this is life. We got to this village and my mom was telling me that this was like 3 generations or 4 generations before. There was this amazing village, and that's where this lady actually started the whole valley sort of, I don't know, tribe, you could tell. And it's an ancestor to us. So I wanted to know more about her and how it all went. And literally when you go in there, the whole cottage there's only stones. So as Norman's saying, nothing happens with one episode or like stuff, life goes on. Life always goes on. You lose someone, something happens, life goes on. It doesn't stop. And we often try and get attached in the past into something and living that energy of feeling sorry for ourselves or maybe victimhood and all the stuff. But I thought about this village, like they built a tribe and people then moved on and lived in and that tribe fell and the houses fell and there's just pile of stones. But once there was a village and I looked at that place and I couldn't even imagine. I was thinking like, how did it look before? And what I'm trying to say is people just lived on and they had to get on with their life, with what they had in the environment they lived, with the economic era they've moved into. Because if we told that generation there will be phones and you can actually have on a phone stuff that you have on a computer and you can pay by phone, or you can have a cards that you will never see your money because your money is somewhere which are not even money. We talk about money, but money in your account, which you pay by a card, you actually never touch it. You don't even see it. It's just the value. It's just the energy. It represents money. And it's the same for them. They had to do things because some of the stuff they were using was masterpiece. I was thinking, why can't we actually bring some stuff that used to work so amazingly in history? We're running into this, the ego is running into this new and invention. And I can hear so many people saying, but I want something that hasn't been done before. And what if we improved something that was genius before and just adjusted it to our times? But the ego wants to be, it's me, 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 me. I want my name on it, and this is me, and a shiny me, and that's how I say it. But really, the whole wisdom of the humanity is cooperation and connection. Now, there was a reason why the ancestors did certain things, and we then jump into things not always with this connection, what really worked and how can we improve something. It's just the ego saying, oh, I want to come up with something completely new. But it could be new. It's like, what is it, Norman? It was talking about the original and synthetic, the inventions, like when the idea came. You have an idea and that was originally created as a chair, and then the chair became leather chair, wooden chair, but the original one was just one idea. And then the synthetic ideas, which are the copies of the original one, would be perfecting into different environments. Somewhere you need a solid, somewhere you need a wood, somewhere you have to have a stone one, where are you in what is your environment? And who are you really? It comes down to that, because then you stress around things, whether you can't take holiday. I can hear so many people, it's so difficult for them. That's what I say, that they work, but I can understand that, like the jobs and everything they do, they have to be their time. They're losing all this time working for a company, making monies for corporations, have no time freedom, thinking, oh, but I'm getting up the position, but everybody's replaceable. And that village reminded me of that. Are you doing something that actually really adds to humanity? Or are we just trying to chase something where we are being seen as someone better by others because we need approval? I'll hand it to you.
And I totally agree. And that's the main question. Why are you doing that? Do you want to be seen? Do you want to be heard? Do you want to be respected? Because if you just follow your heart and you do your thing, it doesn't really matter what you do for others. And of course, it's very nice. And we do something for society, for humanity as well, by sharing our thoughts and ideas. And we are very grateful that you take the time to listen to them or watch them. And at the end of the day, nobody will be remembered. And that's what Vladi just mentioned with the corporation. You work 40 years in a corporation and they give you probably a golden watch and a check. And then you leave and you think, oh, the whole company will come down if I'm gone. And you realize they probably do much better. And probably on the other side, they need 2 people to replace you. Everything could be, or they take a robot to replace you. But nobody really cares if you have ever been there. The company runs smoothly like the years before. Some colleagues have a little bit more to do when you drop out after 40 years, but it's not that the whole structure is based on you. And I always say, if you don't have a copper or bronze statue in the center of the city with you, people will forget about you. So don't take yourself too serious. And I'm just being reminded of Jim Carrey and a talk he gave. I think it was there was a ceremony. It was not the Oscars. Maybe it was a Golden Globe or something, where he said, these awards are huge from our perspective. But if you would go into space and you would look at Earth and into the universe, you could not find anything that anyone ever achieved with the pure eye from up there. But from our perspective, what we do, what we build, what we say, who we are is so, so, so impressive. But from God's point of view, it's nothing. It's nothing. And this does not mean that you should not do it. The thing is that we want to point at is, does it help your heart to jump for joy, what you do? Or are you just pressured because you said, I signed up to do the podcast every week, or to write a book, I told people, or promise this or that. If it does not feel good anymore, for the sake of yourself, because that's the only thing you have solid in your hand, basically, on this planet, everything else can be taken away from you. You don't own it. No, you don't own your house. If a fire comes, the fire just does not care if you own it, and if you have all the papers, the same with your car. Whatever comes, your spouse, your kids, the kids came through you, but they are not yours to have. So there's nothing really stable and solid. And can you just follow more your heart and say, if it feels good, I'm happy to continue it. And if it just not feel good anymore, the energy you're giving out is just the wrong one. And probably that's a great topic for next episode, that we speak about the energy we give out. And for sure, we'll come back. Some call it law of attraction, others call it karma. The other ones call it what you reap, you will sow. That we just speak in the next episode a little bit more about that. And Vladi, how do we close today with our little discussion and our juggling of thoughts, if it's right or wrong to sometimes take a vacation?
I think I'm gonna say something which many coaches, I would look at myself like, don't say that. But really, honesty is everything to me. And I know that as a coach, I can say how many times I did that and how many times I've heard that before. It's when we encourage people to be consistent. We encourage people to really stick with what they say, go with what they promise, but really come down to yourself. You know that you're doing stuff with what Norman said is true. If you're not passionate about it, you're doing it for other reasons than your own heart's happiness and passion, don't do it, because that is not the why. Yes, we all have to do things that we don't particularly like. And yeah, that is something that's part of life. It makes us grow. But genuinely, really reevaluate what you're doing. And just because you miss something or you don't deliver one coaching or one episode or something, that's okay. Like, don't give yourself a hard time, because you are the person who's giving so much love and kindness and wisdom to others. So that doesn't really matter. And if people don't understand that, probably not the right people are around you as well. So, really pay attention to how you feel, and really pay attention, are the things I'm doing making me happy? If they're not making you happy and you're not finding joy in what you're doing, then I say you're doing the wrong thing. So think, what is it I was so many times thinking of doing and I still haven't done it? And that's the way to go. Just go for something that you feel passionate about, because you will always be right going for what you love. That's how I would close.
I love that, and that's what exactly we do. And on Monday at 6:30, the next podcast will be with you, and this one is just slided and pushed in the middle. We wish you a wonderful week, maybe a wonderful vacation week if you're on summer holidays out with your friends, family, or relatives. Enjoy, and then we see and hear you again in episode 36 when we speak about karma. Till next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.